On April 22, 2025, the serene landscape of Pahalgam, a picturesque town nestled in the Himalayas, was shattered by a horrific act of terrorism. A group of heavily armed militants attacked a convoy of buses carrying Hindu pilgrims, leaving behind a trail of carnage. The attack sent shockwaves throughout India, claiming the lives of 26 innocent civilians and injuring scores more. The nation mourned. The images of the attack, broadcast across television screens, seared themselves into the collective consciousness of the nation. The grief was palpable, the anger raw. The attack served as a grim reminder of the persistent threat of terrorism that cast a long shadow over the region. Public outrage was immediate and intense. There were calls for decisive action against those responsible. The government, under immense pressure, vowed to bring the perpetrators to justice. Intelligence agencies went into overdrive, working tirelessly to piece together the events leading up to the attack and identify those responsible. Their investigation led them across the border to Pakistan. Evidence pointed towards the involvement of Pakistan-based terrorist groups, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. These groups, with a long history of perpetrating violence in India, had found safe havens within Pakistan, operating with impunity. The Pahalgam attack brought India and Pakistan to a crossroads. India, for years, had been the target of cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan. The attack on innocent pilgrims, however, proved to be a tipping point. India, determined to break this cycle of violence, decided to act. On May 6, 2025, India launched Operation Sindoor. This meticulously planned military operation marked a significant departure from India's traditional approach to combating terrorism. It signaled a shift in strategy, a move away from restraint towards a more assertive posture. Operation Sindoor was not a declaration of war. It was not an impulsive act of retaliation. It was a calculated and calibrated response aimed at dismantling the infrastructure of terrorism and delivering a clear message of deterrence. The operation, shrouded in secrecy, was the culmination of weeks of meticulous planning and intelligence gathering. The objective was clear: to target and destroy terrorist camps and launch pads operating from within Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and mainland Pakistan. These camps, used to train and equip terrorists, had long been a source of instability in the region, serving as breeding grounds for violence and extremism. Operation Sindoor unfolded with clinical precision. In the pre-dawn hours of May 6, 2025, a coordinated wave of airstrikes and missile attacks targeted 9 terrorist camps and safe houses across Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and mainland Pakistan. The operation, executed with pinpoint accuracy, lasted a mere 15 minutes, showcasing India's growing military capabilities. Indian Air Force fighter jets, armed with precision-guided munitions, struck deep inside enemy territory. Simultaneously, a barrage of cruise missiles launched from warships stationed in the Arabian Sea rained down on their designated targets. The targets, carefully selected based on intelligence inputs, included training camps, ammunition dumps, and communication centers. Among the key targets were the Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters in Bahawalpur and Jaish-e-Mohammed training camps in Kotli. These groups, implicated in numerous terrorist attacks, had long been on India's radar. The strikes aimed to cripple their operational capabilities and disrupt their networks. India maintained that the strikes were carried out with the utmost precision, targeting only terrorist infrastructure and avoiding civilian casualties. The operation, they asserted, was not directed against the Pakistani state or its military, but solely against terrorist elements operating from within its territory. The immediate aftermath of Operation Sindoor was one of shock and disbelief. Pakistan, caught off guard by the scale and audacity of the Indian operation, reacted with fury. Islamabad condemned the strikes as an act of aggression and a violation of its sovereignty. Pakistan claimed that the Indian strikes had resulted in civilian casualties and damage to infrastructure. They vowed to retaliate, raising the spectre of a wider conflict between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. The Pakistani military was put on high alert, and airspace along the border was closed. The international community reacted with a mixture of concern and caution. The United Nations called for restraint from both sides, urging dialogue to de-escalate tensions. The United States, while expressing concern about the escalation, stopped short of condemning India's actions. Israel, a close ally of India, expressed solidarity with India's right to self-defense. Russia and China, both having complex relationships with both India and Pakistan, maintained a neutral stance, calling for dialogue and diplomacy to resolve the crisis. Section 5. India stands firm, a measured response. In the face of Pakistan's outrage and international pressure, India stood its ground. New Delhi maintained that Operation Sindoor was a preemptive counter-terrorism operation, undertaken to protect its citizens and sovereignty. They asserted that Pakistan had been given ample opportunity to dismantle the terrorist infrastructure on its soil, but had failed to do so. India launched a diplomatic offensive, briefing key global partners about the operation and the intelligence that led to it. They shared evidence of the involvement of Pakistan-based terrorist groups in the Pahalgam attack, and highlighted Pakistan's continued support for these groups. India's message was clear. It would no longer tolerate the use of Pakistani soil for terrorist activities against its territory. Operation Sindoor, they asserted, was a clear demonstration of India's resolve to defend its interests and protect its citizens from the scourge of terrorism. Section 6. Shifting Sands. Implications for India-Pakistan relations. Operation Sindoor sent shockwaves through the already volatile relationship between India and Pakistan. It marked a turning point, underscoring India's growing impatience with Pakistan's inaction against terrorist groups operating within its borders. The operation shattered the fragile peace that had existed between the two countries. Tensions soared, with both sides amassing troops along the line of control. The risk of escalation was real, and the world watched with bated breath, fearing a wider conflict between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. The incident also highlighted the limitations of international diplomacy in resolving the long-standing Kashmir dispute. The international community, caught between its desire to maintain peace and its inability to address the root causes of the conflict, found itself struggling to find a way forward. Section 7. A new era of warfare. Operation Sindoor's strategic significance. Operation Sindoor was not just a military operation, it was a strategic game changer. It signaled a paradigm shift in India's approach to combating terrorism. It demonstrated India's willingness to use preemptive military force, even across international borders, to neutralize threats to its security. The operation also showcased India's growing military capabilities. The precision strikes, the use of advanced weaponry, and the coordination between different branches of the armed forces underscored India's emergence as a regional military power. Furthermore, Operation Sindoor had significant implications for the future of warfare. The use of drones, cruise missiles, and cyber warfare capabilities highlighted the evolving nature of modern conflict, where technology plays an increasingly dominant role. Section 8. The unfolding future, regional security in the balance. As the dust settles, the long-term implications of Operation Sindoor are still unfolding. The operation has undoubtedly heightened tensions in the region, raising questions about the future of India-Pakistan relations and the prospects for peace in South Asia. One thing is certain: Operation Sindoor has altered the strategic calculus in the region. It has signaled a new assertiveness in India's foreign policy, a willingness to take calculated risks to defend its interests. How Pakistan responds to this new reality will determine the future trajectory of the region. The international community, too, has a crucial role to play. The world can no longer afford to turn a blind eye to Pakistan's support for terrorist groups. The stakes are too high and the consequences of inaction too dire. The time for decisive action to dismantle the infrastructure of terrorism is now. The future of peace and stability in the region depends on it.